I'm going to make a few comments for this first question here just to help you along, but I'm not actually going to go through the whole process. It would be very time consuming, and I'm absolutely 100% confident that if you're using a ruler that most students will be able to do fine with this. It says to estimate the perimeter, and by estimate they don't mean look at this and get some idea of how far it would be around. So perimeter, just to reinforce that, would be the distance around the outside of all of these, so to measure that. But by estimate, they mean to use some kind of a reference. So they're not, I don't think they were really expecting that you would eyeball that and say, oh, you know, it's going to be that far around that thing. So a reasonable referent for this diagram, so I'm just turning to the page in your textbook, it's not very big, so certainly it's contained within the pages of your textbook, so you'd use like your fingernail, and each fingernail would be approximately 1 centimeter. So what you do is just, you know, put the finger here and then put one beside it, and you would just go work your way around the outside of this thing, and that would be an estimation of the perimeter, and that would be in centimeters. And I notice in the textbook, if you look at the answer that's given, here it is, you know, a fingernail width as a reference for 1 centimeter, so they're saying the first one is approximately 18, second one is longer, it's approximately, you know, filling up the same amount of space, but we have all these little extra indentations, and so you would expect it to be longer. And then they give a more accurate answer. That's pretty close here, 18 and 18.6, 25 and 25, 23. Anyway, the last question is actually the most important one, and just to emphasize that if you were to measure some of these lengths, you don't, you know, need to measure. That if you measure this distance from this bottom corner up to this top corner, that will be the same as the sum of these two distances, because this vertical distance and this vertical distance have to take you the same vertical distance as this whole one measured in one shot. Same thing, this horizontal distance from left corner over here to right corner has to be the same as the sum of these two horizontal distances. So even this, though this thing has this little indentation, we really only need to measure this side over here and this side over here. This one's a lot more complicated. There are a few shortcuts that you could take where, you know, some of the distances are going to work out, but I would say here you probably are going to end up, you know, in order to keep track, the time that it would take you to figure out, you know, how can I be clever, and I think that's what the textbook is talking about here, you know, how can we save ourselves time by not measuring some of these sides. Pretty obvious with the yellow one, but if you're trying to take the time to say, oh, what can I not measure on this one, the extra time you'll take to figure that out beforehand, unless you're really, really brilliant, will probably take more time than just actually measuring around the outside.